Dear all participants, I am Vignesh Raj, Assistant Manager of Technical, and I take this opportunity to welcome you all for our first webinar session for Industrial Waste Management. Our Industrial Waste Management Association was formed on the Directive of Tamil Nadu Pollution Board to establish the facility for the safe and scientific disposal of hazardous waste from industries as per the Hazardous Waste Management Rules and the Environmental Protection Act. IWME started with a membership of 35 in 2002, and now it stands for around 3,100 membership. The association is run by self-motivated representative from the industries of all sectors. Now I connect all to our chairman of IWME, Mr. K. Bhaskaran, to give the welcome address. Thank you all for addressing for the meantime, and we would also expect some more participants to join. So we will start the session in a couple of minutes. Sir, Bhaskaran, sir?
Yes.
Good
morning, Nish.
Yes, sir. Kindly and welcome address to all the participants.
Yeah. Good morning to all. I welcome you for this web seminar on environmental health and safety on behalf of Industrial Waste Management Association. As rightly said, Vignesh, actually we have 3,000 industries, whole Tamil Nadu. We have been doing good job. We have a site in Gumri-Pundi. We are going to construct one more site in Bargur also very shortly. And we also have institution tie-ups like CLRI and IIT Madras, Chakri and Anna University like that. So for any queries related to your hazardous waste or something like that, we have a team in office. Vignesh is also part of it, and we have office bearers right from vice chairman, secretary, and our joint secretary. Today, our joint secretary is going to say a word of thanks. Again, I also welcome all the participants. We got a very good response, so we didn't expect. Actually, as of now, 257 industries has been enrolled. It's a big thing actually. We have in-house training also. Previously, we were doing it on a monthly basis. Monthly 2 or 3 in-house trainings. Faculties will come from various institutions and expertise. We thought of starting in web seminar, and today it has come to very big success. And that too, we have today's trainer, Mr. A. Gokul Suresh, EHS Sri Mother Safety. I welcome you, sir. Of course, it's a very good program. We have lined up with the next, once in 4 days, it will be their web seminars and regularly, because next to 3 to 4 months, we are planning to do that. Maybe it will be starting with 1 or 1.5 hours only. Future, we may go for a half a day or 1 day session also. We are planning to do that through web seminars because of the social distancing and all. So please get in touch with us, because we have lined up with the topics also, very good topics, which will be shared by another day or two to all the participants through mail. Thank you all. We'll catch up later on. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, sir, for addressing the participants. Without any further ado, I welcome Mr. Gokul Suresh, our trainer for the session. Mr. Gokul Suresh has a professional experience over 15 years handling health and safety operation with across various functional exposure in many manufacturing operation, power plants, greenfield execution, non-ferrous metal, behavior-based safety, and change management and people development. I now welcome Mr. Suresh to take over the session for the environmental health and safety. Mr. Gokul Suresh, sir, kindly share your screen. And yes, sir, now you're online, sir. Mr. Gokul sir, is it audible? Yes, sir. Please, sir. Now you can share your screen, sir.
இப்போ கிளியரா இருக்கா சார்? ஹலோ, வாய்ஸ் கிளியர்ல? ஓகே, சரி, ஓகே. இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன் கொடுத்துட்டீங்களா? ஓகே, சரி, ஓகே. நான் இது பண்றேன்.
Yes, sir. We can able to see your screen, sir. You can start with your. I've given your introduction, sir.
Introduction is completed. Huh?
Yeah, it is completed, sir. You can start with your webinar, sir.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah, okay.
Vignesh, shall I start? Hello.
Yes, sir. You can start the presentation.
Yeah.
Everything is clear, sir. We can able to see your
Yeah.
screen.
Voice is
share.
Voice is clear.
Voice is fine, sir. I hope every participants can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay. Respected Chairman K. Bhaskaran, IWMA, sir, good morning, sir, and Joint Secretary Trinalam, sir, R. Saravanan, Senior Manager, and Vignesh Raj, and Miss Devi from MTL, who has given an opportunity to give you introduction to IW for giving this presentation, and all my colleagues. Very good morning to all of you. So now the presentation, what the presentation we are going to do in the sense, there are two modules. One is ergonomics. The second one is emergency preparedness and disaster management plan for petrochemical industries. So this is the topic we are going to cover. So in this first section, I will be sharing by myself. And the second section, my colleague, Mr. Yasaki Muthu, who has come from ADNOC, from Gulf, is going to take the second section. So due to the time short, so what I'm going to do in the sense, I rush the presentation because the time is short for only 1 hour, 10 minutes probably. And whatever the questions you are having, just note it down, and whatever the questions you are having, just you can type it. If possible, we can clear. Otherwise, I give my email ID or my mobile number. You may directly call me. So coming to the topic, it's a very important topic. That's the topic name called ergonomics for your workplace safety. So what are the things we are going to cover in the sense introduction, why ergonomics is very important, work-related musculoskeletal disorders, risk control factors, find it, fix it, and hit list. So this find it, fix it, hit list is coming under human tech. Normally, there are three methodology normally in all over the world they are following. One is RULA, RIBA, and human tech. In the human tech, this is the famous model. So I'm going to touch this model and some medical tips and go for the conclusion. So coming to the slide, what is ergonomics? First of all, we know from the safety, there are 5 types of hazard as per the BS 45001. The first one is physical hazard, chemical hazard, biological hazard, ergonomic hazard, and radiation hazard. So ergonomic hazard, why it is very important? Why it is say as a hazard? So that is the portion I'm going to cover. So normally from the slide, you can see ergonomic is the science of improving employee performance and well-being in relation to job task, equipment, and environment. So this is the 3 important thing which is particular for the ergonomics. For an example, if you take a car, if I have my own car, if I drive my car, it is very comfortable for me. Suppose I ask anyone to come and operate this car, particularly they will feel somewhat their interrelationship between the machine, that is particularly the car, it takes some time. So this the relationship is called as a ergonomic. How with the job task, how with the equipment, how with the environment, how we are cope up and do the work. So this is the way we are improving our science with respect to our job task, equipment, and environment. Normally this is coming under the Greek word, normally the ergon and nomos. So it is called as work law, nothing but work law, work and effort and law are surrounding. So you can see the photo now, which is included. Actually, whether is the job fitting for the person to carry out this type of work, it is very difficult. So continuously, if he is doing in the sense, one point of time, you may get a severe back pain or any other pain, which may leads to, chronic effect. Now, taking a small example, you can see some different types of chairs, which is present in the presentation. You see 1200 BC, that is before Christ, how the chairs evolving. One day by day, changes happening, and finally it comes to the final position, how we are using comfortably with respect to our ergonomic posture. Why ergonomics is very important? It is always be very important for 4 factors. That is, one is we can improve our efficiency, increase our production capability, and reduce workplace injuries and reduce absenteeism, particularly absenteeism. In India, particularly the ergonomics, we have a standard, but comparing to Eastern and Western countries, the standards are very stringent. Absenteeism, suppose if the people having the back pain or neck pain or the hand pain, they don't know why this may happen to us, and slowly they can go and take some painkiller, and finally after 1 or 2 days or maybe a month, they can take 1 or 2 day leaves, particularly due to the pain. They don't know whether this is coming under the ergonomics or not. So once if we can attack this type of point, we can reduce the absenteeism. Indirectly, it improves the production capability and efficiency, and finally it may reduce our workplace injuries. Now coming to the muscular skeletal disorders. So this is the very important factor. So ergonomics, if we are not following the proper posture, then we are going to face the problem that is called as work-related musculoskeletal disorder. What is musculoskeletal disorder? It is an injury or illness to soft body tissue, such as muscles, nerves, tendons, ligaments, joints, cartilages, spinal disc. For an example, if the muscle which is affecting the nerves, and the nerves, what it happened in the sense of blood flow to the brain, it affects in the sense ultimately we get the pain. Now muscles, nerves, everyone knows. The tendons is nothing but it is a soft tissue that connect bone to the bone. Ligaments are the soft tissue that connect muscle to the bone. Ligament normally it acts as a stabilization. And joint muscle and bone movement. So cartilage, it is also it is the protection layer between the bones. So it gives you a shock absorber. Spinal disc, everyone knows about the spinal disc. So almost 33 disc which is having in our back spinal cord. In that spinal disc is very thinny and very softy than the cartilage. So these are the factors which is affecting for the musculoskeletal disorders. Now coming to the work-related MSDs, you can see now there are very important thing, how it affects muscles, nerves, blood vessels, ligaments, and tendons. The symptoms it shows like discomfort and pain, numbness, loss of motion, flexibility. The people cannot have the flexibility, stiff joints, burning, swelling, tingling. Suppose and in our body, so it may cause some small tingling motion. That's called as a tingling, inflammation, throbbing, and paralysis. So these are the causes which is related to the work-related musculoskeletal disorders. So if it takes like a trauma bucket, maybe the pain slowly added in the bucket, one point of time it may give you a very chronic pain. So that is called as a work-related musculoskeletal disorder. So these are the very important 5 factors. You can see cumulative trauma disorders, repetitive motion disorders, repetitive strain injuries, carpal tunnel syndrome, overuse syndrome. So cumulative trauma, motion strain, everyone know about this. So normally if the trauma is slowly increase, and finally one point of time it may cause as a chronic, and people may continuously get a pain in the particular portion. Motion disorders, motion in the sense particularly if the people doing the continuous work, like with respect to the force or frequency they are applying, then it is coming under the motion disorders. And strain injuries, for an example, a tennis player or a cricket player is giving more strain to hit a ball. So that time they may get a strain injuries like a tennis epicondylitis, golf injuries like that. And carpal tunnel syndrome, this is the normal thing, particularly for the people who is handling more work in the wrist area. So this affects the median nerve. So median nerve, you can see the picture in the presentation. So this is the median nerve. There are three types of important nerve. One is median nerve, ulnar nerve, and radial nerve. In the medial nerve, you see at the front portion of the thing, for the three fingers, the blood may flow. Once the median nerve is getting affected due to the movement by the tendons or the bone which is striking, then the blood flow which is not going to these three fingers, then we are getting the carpal tunnel syndrome. This is very important factor. And overuse syndrome in the sense that the people standing for continuous work for more than 8 hours for a year, and slowly you may get a pain in the leg. Now, how it causes? You can see bending, climbing in the sense continuously is climbing from the steps, maybe a small step or maybe a staircase, continuously climbing more than 100 to 200 every day. So that also be a thing. Crawling, so like a crawling way of taking the material, reaching, twisting, overexertion, repeated exposure. These are the causes for the MSDS. Now coming to the very important factors. So particularly before going to the rectification work, first we know about our body mechanics. Our body consists of 5 portions which is getting affected. So the first one I'm going to show is about the wrist. That is the hand, the wrist. The second one is called the elbow. The third one is called the shoulder. And the fourth one is called the back. And the fifth one is called the neck. And finally about the leg. So now coming to the hand mechanics, now you can see the photos. You can see the photos. You can see this photos also and this one also. Here there are 2 important words which is given as a radial and ulnar, and here extended or flexed. If the person is extending like this, then what it happened in the sense the tendon which affects the median nerve, the blood flow totally affected. Due to that, they may get some pain in the hand, that is in the fingers. So same thing, the median nerve which is affecting the tendon, then median nerve is getting once again affected due to this portion called flexed. So this is called as a extended, this is called as a flexed. The same thing, this hand is going this direction, that is called as a radial. If it is going this direction, it's called a ulnar. So these are the 4 positions which is affecting our wrist portion. For an example, now you can see the awkward posture, what I told in the previous slide. You can see the radial deviation, ulnar deviation, flexion, and extension. So this is the way. If the people continuously doing either all these 4 position, maybe in your force or taking some material or some frequency, number of times, how many number they are taking the objects, that is coming under also, we have to take care. And the duration, how much he is holding. So if we can make it as a neutralized position, then we will not get a pain in the wrist. So this is very important factor. For an example, you can see the awkward wrist posture, correct wrist posture. So for that only, we are going for the soft padding for our mouse as well as for the keyboard. These are the small example how the knife is slowly changing and coming into the picture with respect to the ergonomic, and how we have to hold like a C-shaped position. Now you can see how the people have holding the objects. It is also very important. Now coming to the hand in the wrist, there is one more factor called grip. Why grip is very important? If you can take a small pin with the 2 fingers, 4-finger and thumb, it is counted as a 2 pounds. It is greater than the 2 pounds. If a person taking some material and continuously holding and doing the work, for an example, for 1 minute is doing around 20 times, then it may be a slightly a chronic problem. So you may get a slowly pain in the fingers. Now coming to the second thing called as elbow. So elbow, this is the portion called elbow. If it is more than 135 degrees centigrade, if it is a 180 degree, not a problem. If you are bending to greater than or equal to 135, then the problem may start. Why? What is the thing in the sense? So continuously the people are hammering or maybe excusing the dress. So these are the problems which is particularly under the wrist. You may see one more example. A lady who is holding the knob for doing some operation. So what it happened, the elbow, you can see 135 degree. It is a standing operation, but this lady comfortably want to sitting operation. So this makes a problem for her. Another comes out to the elbow out. How the elbow out? You can see the below photos, the neutral posture and awkward posture. If it is around 90°, then it is well and good. If it is around the 45° above or below 45°, then if you are holding any object or any material, any work continuously for more than a minute, then it may lead to the ergonomic problem. Now coming to the third thing called shoulder. Shoulder is a very important thing, because normally if the pain starts accumulate only through the shoulder. So you can see the 4 photos, arm raised around 45° in the sense that also cause pain to the shoulder in along with elbow also. Suppose if you are bringing the material close to your body, you can see arm behind the body. This is also the one of the posture we are getting the ergonomic pain. Shoulder shrugged. Some people want to take the material to put it at the top of the thing around 6 feet more than the face, then this type of problem may happen. Even the two-wheeler, how the people sometimes want to shrugging the shoulder, they want to do it causes some severe pain in the neck. It leads to the pain in the neck. These are the postures, neutral posture and awkward posture. You can see all the 4 types: flexion, extension, abduction and extension. So if you keep your neutral position, then the problem may be come down. Now coming to the back, the 4th one is called as the back. You can see all the photos how the back may be. If the people, you can see greater than or equal to 20°, then the problem starts. Even the people may go for the sideways around 20°, that is also be the problem. In a standing position, if they are twisting, that is also the problem. You can see all the photos which is given below the photos for the everything, for the flexed, sideways and the twisted and unsupported and extended. So these are the thing if you continuously doing for a repetitive operation. So particularly the activity risk factors, force, frequency and the duration, with respect to this, the chronic problem may start. Now you can see the back. It's a very good back, our spinal cord, where the problem starts in the sense, this is the main important problem, L1 to L5, that is L5S1. This is the very important thing. How it happened in the sense, you can see it's like a spring movement where the spinal our disc is there. Slowly, if you are not properly turning, if you are turning with the weight, or if your body posture is not good with respect to the load, then slowly what it happened in the sense, the disc got prolapsed and it may affect our nerves. Due to that, our total system below the stomach, we get into a problem. So that's what, whenever you are carrying a load, it may be very much consideration how we are taking the load, how the body posture is very important in order to avoid the L5S1 problem. So these are the neutral posture. You can see the photos. This is the neutral position, how we are standing. We have to avoid back flexion, back extension, twisted about waist or lateral bending. These are the very important factors for the neutral postures. And neck, coming to the neck. So most of the employees, particularly in the blue collar, in the industries, most of the people is getting affected due to the neck. Due to this, people are having the neck pain or headache due to the people continuously doing the flexed around the 30°. I have some photos after this presentation. I will show it to you. This is the flexed around greater than or equal to 30° or extended, maybe somewhat. This is pertaining to EOT crane. Suppose if the people who is having the pendant operation with the EOT crane, they want to take it the head above, instead of flexed they have to extend their neck and carry out the work. If they do continuously, they may get a pain. And sideways, how the people are doing for the sideways and twisted. So these are the thing which is coming under the neck. A small example, how we are handling the mobile phone. So if you handling the mobile phone without the hand, if you are keeping in between the shoulder and in the neck, in between this, you can see how our spinal cord, the posture, it may really affect our neck. Now coming to the eyes, so this is also a very important about the factors, how much we are inhaling, about our temperature, as well as inhale slowly through nose and hold for 4 seconds, continue deep breathing for 15 to 30 seconds. And you have to do one thing for the eyes. So if you are not having a very good sleep, slowly you get a pain like a headache slowly start. And another one more, if you are continuously doing 2 shift or 3 shift, you have to take at least in between some rest pause. Otherwise, if eye is strained, in the sense, we will get a back pain or maybe a neck pain. So due to the eye, there are a lot of issues are there, even reflection, refraction, that also be the cause for the eyes. Now coming to the final thing, about the leg. There are three postures I given. One is squat, kneel, and unsupport. So these are the common phenomena. So how the people are squatting and doing, in the sense the load act on the knee, so it affects our knee portion, particularly the cartilage portion. So they may get slowly pain in the knee pain. So we have to avoid this type of squat position. So if you want to avoid, in the sense, we have to keep the material above from the surface, almost around 1 meter. If you are storing the material, then it is well and good. And kneel, suppose kneel is the second one. So we are giving total load to the knee. So that is causing very chronic pain if you continuously doing this type of operation for a day, almost around 10 to 20 times. And unsupported, if the people are working in a system or in the machine without the unsupport, in the sense, what it happened, in the sense, the blood flow may be affected, and the main portion, the leg slowly get pain into the, and take it to the next stage. You can see some seating adjustment, how the people are sitting and doing. Now previously we are having the up and down movement only. Nowadays the seat adjustment is also a vertical and horizontal also, it is possible. Some cushioning effect. Now coming to the very important factors. So far we are seeing the hazards of the ergonomic. Now we are going for the thing, how the work related musculoskeletal is coming with respect to the thing. There are three important factors. One is how much force we are giving, and the frequency, number of times, how much time we are operating, and the posture, how we are sitting, how we are standing, how we are operating the equipment. These are the three important factors we have to be considered for the WMST. Now the risk factors, if you take it, there are two risk factors. One is called as environmental factors, another one is called as an activity factor. So in the environmental factor, you can see these are the five important things, because even the ergonomics also play a little role in the industrial agent, like heat or cold, lighting, vibration, tool design, and noise. So these are all the things which is coming under the environmental risk factor. So you may see some small example: headache, increased blood pressure due to the noise and all, muscle tension and fatigue, irritability and distraction. And activity risk factor, this is the very important risk factors we have to be considered. One is how much force and exertion, how much give exertion for that. Static or awkward posture, statically we are doing, or awkward posture we are doing. And improper gripping, improper lifting, and repetitive motion. So these are the things which may be leads to the activity risk factor. For an example, if the people standing for the prolonged standing, in the sense, you may get a veins back stress, some issues with respect to the this one. Now controls, we are going for the controls. In this, there are only one important thing is, out of 5 with respect to BS 45,000, here only one thing is added, is work practice control. It is very important. Elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, work practice control. How we have to control the work practice? The people have doing the operation in a similar way, we have to advise them and take care of the proper posture. So this is also very important for the hazard control. And training, how the people have to be trained with respect to the ergonomics, and how the force, duration, frequency, how we have to operate, how to keep it, how to do the posture, correct posture. So these are the thing comes under the hazard controls. Now this is the very important factors. It's nothing but it's a ergonomic hit list. Normally in the human tech, they are considering this step. It's a very powerful step. Once if you know this, find it, all these 9 steps, you can easily do the ergonomic for your plant. So this is the methodology. We have to know this one. Then automatically you can download the material either from Reba or Rula. You can take it and you can do with respect to the same this list. Now, these are the way. Like around 9 in the find it and the fix it. Now coming to the one by one, I'm explaining about this one. The first way called as a wash track. So this is the very important. Normally for the screwdriver, how the people are using screwdriver previously, how the change, the operation have been changed. Now normally for the screwdrivers, now the total concept have been changed to a pneumatic screwdriver. So if you can do, because even if the cloth, if you are squeezing for 1 time, 2 times, it's not a problem. If you do for 100 times, then we get a pain in the elbow. So that is the thing, that's the terminology called wash rack. So this is to avoid bend wrist. Now coming to the second thing called elbows out. What is elbows out? You can see, avoid winging out the elbow while performing work activities. Wrong tool for the job, using pliers, screwdriver use. So these are the cause for the issues. How to improve this? We can go for pistol grip tools, angled handle pliers, and battery powered tools, and different fasteners. I'll have some photos also. So you can see here, there are thing for the thing to shoulder too high and too low. This is the third terminology. So the people having the table which is above the surface, above in the sense almost if the person is around 4 feet, if it is not comfortable with that, then they may get a shoulder shrugging position. They may get a pain at both the shoulders as well as the neck. For an example, in this small photo, you can see depending upon the height, they can use it. Maybe a small stool, maybe a small arrangement. Nowadays, the table is also an adjustable table has been started now in India also, like other Western countries. Even the table can be adjusted with respect to our height. So another previously I told you about this operation. So this lady want to this knob, it may go this direction. She has to put down to the down for each and every operation. So every time she get a pain in the elbow and particularly in the shoulder. So she used to get a tablet every time from our thing. Once we find it out, then we found that okay, this operation is not good. Then we go for the review of the ergonomics. Then this operation has been changed into a this machine has come down to another 0.5 meter down. A small example about the shoulder extender. So normally they want to put some sands into the machine. Instead of that, they can have some small types of climbing structures so that the posture may be taken into a good posture. This is hungry head. This is also a very important one. Hungry head. So why hungry head may happen in the sense, particularly if the people having two problems. One is eyes. If they have the power in the eyes, in the sense they have the problem of hungry head. So once the power in the eye, maybe a shortness, what it happened, they want to close to the object, then they work. If you correct eyes as well as the lighting position, where the area, where the table, if you adjust it and correct it, then we can avoid this problem. Another one more, some of the work you can see this one, two ladies along with one person who is doing a small brushing machine. You see these two ladies, the height is correct and convenient with respect to the operation. You take the third one, this person, the height is high, the person having it all of around 6.5 feet. You see the neck almost flexed, and it is called as a hungry head. Maybe this type of person maybe change into some job rotation for some other work. Otherwise, maybe the machine, for him, the machine has to be lifted. This is the way we have to do. Below another one more photo, so you can see about the table. So this table, the height, maybe this is a instruction table by the quality department in one of the company which I taken the photos. Normally you can see the object which is coming, the quality person has to check it and put it in the bin. This table, this conveyor belt table is in a right position. Another conveyor belt is not in a right position. So the people having the shoulder shrug and sometimes of hungry head, maybe you have the possibility for this one. And butts up. This is another one more. Avoid extreme bending at the waist. Waist is very important for the waist. Nowadays, a lot of new technology, and every year we are changing. At least we take some important steps. Like every year we are taking some challenges to improve our ergonomics. Like this rotating type of stacker, if you are having. So people want to have some objects or want to keep the material, they can easily take it. Even if you go to the vegetable shop, nowadays they are keeping the vegetable or fruits only at 45-degree angle only. Why? In the sense that people can easily pick the fruits or vegetables at around 90-degree angle, so that they are very comfortable while doing the work. And the twist out, this is another one more terminology. So this is nothing but avoid twisting and while performing work activities. In a standing position, if you are twisting one time, two time, okay. If you are continuously doing for a repeated operation, almost more than frequency around 50 times, then it may lead to a ergonomic related issues. So how to improve in the sense individualized work areas, tilting or gravity feed pins, reduce reach to parts, deliver parts on a gravity slide close to the employee. This is the horizontal distance. This is very important, where the people are working, how they are taking the material, how they are doing the operation. You can see this person who is taking the fuse from this table and want to put it in the press machine. You see how much the height, almost the horizontal distance. Maybe this may around 4 kg weight. He has to put it in this machine and have to do some capping work. After that, he has to take and put it in the other side of the bin. If they continues to do this type of operation, you may get a shoulder pain. And maybe this table may be rotated to this one. He may go this one, and slowly he may put some small table, so that if the height is increased in the sense, maybe the hand may be coming to a 45-degree angle. This terminology called as a sit with stand. Choose the right working height for the task. whether the table or the chair or the platform where we are working, whether it is rightly we are taken. That is very important. Even if the adjustable chairs and all it is available, the person before sitting, they have to be inculcated, cultivated in the training part, how to sit in the table. It is also a very important. Bad vibration, it's nothing but bad vibes. Avoid or reduce exposure to vibration. Normally nowadays most of the company having the pneumatic screwdrivers, pneumatic tools and all. Only one thing is which is suggested in the sense, the pneumatic tools to be given with some support. Otherwise what will happen in the sense, the vibration which is going to our body, then it may cause a pain in the body. This is the contact. It's a common terminology. I say nothing but it's stressor. People having the sore page, continuously operating with the sore page, what will happen in the sense, the blood flow and the veins may getting affected into this. So slowly they get a pain in the fingers. So they can keep some soft surfaces like this one, wherever the objects which is touching, they have to put some rubber beading. Now coming to the fix-it, so almost around 9 terminology we have seen. So these are the very important 3 solutions. Either we have to target the tool or targeting the work area, or the comfort zone, how we are giving the comfort zone. And don't give me the static load. So normally the terminology is static, only one position the people are continuously doing, in the sense it is also causes a fatigue. For an example, you can see some this one, how the person is doing non-neutral position. Below that you can see the change the tool or change the target. If you can do this, then we can avoid the awkward posture. Comfort zone, how the comfort zone, you see the some small thing, how he is taking the material and keeping the thing. It's an auto spring mode. And even the staker, how we are having, so people can comfortably work. Even if you don't have the staker like that, we can put the pallet like this, and we can keep it. And wrapping operation, like finished good wrapping operation, this may be good for the people working in the warehouse area. Static, so like this previously I told, the people who is operating in the smartic driver, balancer, we can give some balancer like this to hold the heavy weight. So that is also a comfortable for them to carry out the work. This is for the sharp edges, how the wherever the sharp edges, you can see some 3 photos about the head, maybe the sharp edges here, maybe the sharp edges here. So it is connected with the rubber beading. So this is very good for the people. So it avoids the stressor in the hand. Anti-fatigue mat, nowadays the fatigue mat is really available in all over the area. So if you can use this one, maybe the people may get a less pain in the thing. Maybe we can avoid the pain in the leg. Some of the thing, how we have to keep our wrist comfortably straight, not like this. And we have to do some small exercise wherever possible, at least every day. Some stretch exercise, everyone know about this one. And exercise, nutrition, relaxation, these are also very important for the thing. And only very important thing is, normally we are going for the company, we are not taking care of our health, particularly for the calcium for the bones, which is very important. So people are getting a knee pain, and the wrist pain is the common phenomena, because these are the 2 areas we are working more than any other day. Like every day we are operating more than more works only with the help of hand, particular wrist area. And the second one is the knee area. So you take some food with respect to the calcium or vitamin deficiency. If you have the vitamin deficiency, go for some vitamin E, vitamin D. These are the good for our bones. So this is the section what I covered is the ergonomic. It's not a detailed section, only a section how we have to go ahead with respect to the hazard and with respect to the precautionary measures. So now I'm going to hand over the section to Mr. Yasiki Muthu. Vignesh, hello, hello, Vignesh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the section has been completed. Now I hand over the section to Yasiki Muthu. Let it be. I introduce Yasiki Muthu. Actually, Yasiki Muthu, sir, please come. Basically, he is a petrochemical manager. He is presently working in ADNOC. Now, due to the holidays, he has come to India. So I asked this opportunity to give you a presentation on the disaster management. He is having a very good knowledge. So from the ADNOC, almost around 15 years he worked. He also worked in India like CPCL, Tamil Nadu Petro Products, and BPCL also he worked. Now he is going to take the section on emergency preparedness and disaster management plan. Only the overview of the thing, maybe for getting the idea.
Okay,
I hand over the section.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good morning, sir. On behalf of IWMA participants and IWOB and EC members, I welcome you for taking over the session, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. And I appreciate all the audience in this COVID-19 situation, still getting engaged and gaining knowledge from our team, from Mother Safety. I appreciate Mr. Gogul for giving me this opportunity, as well as the IWMA team for giving me this excellent opportunity as well. And if it would have been the classroom session, we can have a very good interactive session, because it is a very interesting subject. It is an emergency preparedness and disaster management plan. So this is an excellent subject where we can just hold on for a minute. Hope you guys are seeing my presentation, right? Can I get the answer yes?
Sir, right now we are able to see the slides of Suresh sirs, because the screen sharing haven't done off.
Okay, okay. Just we are working to share the screen now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you able to see the screen now? The presentation slide?
Just a minute, sir. No, sir, we are still stuck with Mr. Suresh sir's slide.
Okay, sir, we didn't share this slide. New share. Screen.
Yes, sir. We are able to see, sir. Yeah. You can proceed with the full screen, and you can start the presentation, sir.
Okay, sure. So we need to go to the top.
Yes, sir. Now it's in full screen, sir.
It is moving to the can we go here? Can we go here, sir? I think this full screen we couldn't able to make it. Can I continue with this slide?
Sir, a few minutes back it came as a full screen, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is perfect. It is in full screen mode.
But the problem for us, it goes straight to the videos.
Video. Okay, okay.
Okay, let me continue with this the slide itself, because we are having a problem with the full screen.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Let me continue with that. It is an it's going to be a very interesting session for us.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Just hold on for a minute.
Yes, sir.
screenshot. Yes. Yeah. Here, இது press பண்ணுவோம் சார். I think this one full screen. Okay, excellent. Now we got the full screen also. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am Isakti Muthu, an chemical engineer and working in ADNOC. Presently, I am in leave, so I got an opportunity to present to you. And I have an experience in operations, process safety, and integrity plus HSC divisions. Started career.
Sorry for interrupting, sir. Actually, we are able to see your folder screen sharing view, not the presentation, sir.
Okay.
Your desktop folder view is.
Can you see now?
Now is fine, sir.
We got it, right?
Yeah, we got it, sir.
Okay. Let us continue with the presentation, and then we can have a small interaction also. And I appreciate the team to note it down, any doubts, any sort of clarifications. And since we are in the video session, and I suggest to keep it at the last so that we can clarify. And in the meantime, if somebody wants to ask any questions, you are feel free to ask these questions. And this subject is about the emergency preparedness and disaster management plan. And basically, emergency disaster. It's not moving to the next slide. Something is happening. Again, I face a problem with the slides actually. Yes, it's moving now. We'll go to the next slide. Why we need to have an emergency preparedness and disaster management? And it's one of the worst disaster happened in our history. That has happened in Bhopal and Union Carbide Industries, where the methyl isocyanide got released from the plant, and it get affected to the whole community, including the environment and other people. Around 2,000 people get killed officially. So, we don't want to repeat this, or still we are facing a problem all around the world on, facing disasters. So we should have a good plan, emergency preparedness plan and disaster management plan, so that we can able to, either prevent it, or if it happens, we can control as well as we can minimize the impact to the society. So we'll go to the next slide. Emergency preparedness and disaster management plan. Definition by United Nations. Yeah, disaster is a serious disruption to the functioning of a community which causes human, material, economic, and environmental losses beyond the community capability to cope up with. Disaster management aims to lessen the impact of disaster, minimizes the losses of life and property. So basically, we are going to work out in a way that we lessen the impact of disasters and minimize the losses of life and property. Now, emergency, there is a difference between the emergency and disaster. Emergency response, to manage the incident within the defined boundary of industry, like petrochemical refinery or storage. So if the emergency is contained with the response within the boundary, then it is an emergency response. And if the response goes outside the boundary, then and beyond the control of either industry as asset owner or the community to control it, then it goes it treated as a disaster response. So where the government agencies and mutual aids and other agencies were involved into this incident. Emergency preparedness, like nature of emergencies in petrochemical installations, there are three types of emergencies can happen: spillage of petroleum products, release of flammable and toxic vapors, fire or explosion. And how to have an emergency preparedness and disaster plan. And we have 7 points which is given in OISD 168. It gives us a guideline how to have an emergency preparedness and disaster management plan. It covers 7 areas. One is it is a statutory requirement. Second is we need to understand the hazard of an industry and material which we handle, nature of hazard, consequences, causes and hazard. And third one is we need to do the hazard analysis, how the hazard is and what is the risk. And then fourth is basic elements of emergency preparedness plan. And then we'll have a key personnel and their roles, action before, during, and after the emergency. And seventh one is response evaluation and update of plan. And we will go to the next slide with the first section, statutory requirement. Basically for the statutory requirement, emergency preparedness for the oil industry, we can follow OISD. For other industries, we need to follow it is a statutory requirement by Factories Act, as well as the Manufacture, Storage and Import of Hazardous Chemicals Rules 1989, and which is amended in 1994 as well. And we have another requirement also. It is as per the chemical accidents, or we supposed to have an emergency preparedness plan as per the Environment Act as well, the 1986 Environment Act. So we'll be having an Factories Act says handling highly flammable liquids and gases fall under the category of hazardous process under first schedule. So we need to have an on-site emergency plan. Manufacture, storage and import of hazardous chemicals, which is classified into two ways. One is gas at atmospheric pressure and temperature, and the other one is highly flammable liquids of different quantities with a flash point of lower than 23 degrees. Storage capacities of 50 metric ton to 500 metric ton for gases and 10,000 metric ton for flammable liquids, which requires an emergency preparedness and disaster management plan as per the MSIHC Act. And the Environment Act and MSIHC Act, it requires formation of 4 groups. One is central crisis group that should be formed within 30 days of an initiation of this industry, and then state crisis group within 45 days of notification. And third one is district crisis group, which is very important. Actually, they deal with this crisis from forefront. So that needs to be formed within 60 days. And fourth one is local crisis groups. It involves industries and local authorities like inspector of factories and other even the government medical facilities. So they form the group. They need to form a group. So it is within 60 days. So why we need to have an emergency preparedness? Let us see a small video. Probably the people might have seen even in the internet. So I just play for a minute and let us understand what is happening. It is a gas plant explosion happened in Mexico. So just let us watch how the gas cloud can explode in the presence of ignition source. Basically, they were doing some flange brake jobs where the higher amount of gas is released into the atmosphere. Once the ignition source ignites the flammable mixture, then it explodes. Basically, it increases the level of impact within very short time. Let us see the impact now. Yeah, this is the speed of a vapor cloud explosion and gas cloud explosion. So you can see the people, they are crawling around. Basically, we need to have a robust plan so that we don't have this incident happen. If it happens, how we lessen the impact. So this is what it's all about, emergency preparedness and disaster management. We'll see the other view. Now we'll see the other view as well. See the people they are clotting around. This is the other view. See the impact. Due to the fire in one place, the fire is escalating to the storage tanks and the whole facility is getting ignited and gutted out and set ablaze. So emergency or any fire, even if it is very small in nature, it can escalate at any point in time into a bigger disaster. See the storage tanks also under fire. It's exposed to the high level of heat, radiation, heat, as well as direct impingement of fire. So this is a good lesson for the emergency responders. They cannot underestimate the level of escalation when any fire or any release happens. It can escalate into one major disaster at any point in time. See the people, when there is a fire, the people are all around. So they should be aware about how they get escaped, how they can protect themselves, and where are the easiest ways and where is the wind direction. They should know all this about, and they should have a proper training to escape when there is an emergency happens. So emergency preparedness plan, it deals with all those. See the flame. Now the storage tanks are on fire. So you have substantial quantity of flammable material into the system. Handling this, it takes really sometimes a week. So now from this, everybody is getting convinced we need to have a proper emergency response and trained personnel, as well as we should know what is the material we are handling, what is the hazards available, what is the risk available, how we will minimize the risk, and in case if there is escalation happens, how we will control it, and who are the people to be notified, and how we will handle the situation if it goes out of hand. That means it goes out of the industry's boundary. And let us go to the slide now. Nature, causes and consequence of hazard. Nature is release of flammable liquid and gases, spillage of pollution. And theoretical stuff, I'll be moving much faster. And causes, it can be classified into three ways: man-made, natural, and extraneous. Man-made is our activities, natural calamities like earthquake, floods. Extraneous, war, terrorism, and sabotage. And it is in it is happening really in the world. Consequence within the boundary or outside the boundary, as was discussed. Hazard analysis, there are multiple ways of doing this hazard analysis, methodologies. So, first, the main components are identification, identify, quantifying the location. Vulnerability, it is another major thing that has to be considered during the hazard analysis. Maximum single storage, how much it can hold, and what is the worst case? Maximum loss, how much it can happen in case of there is any release. A vulnerable zone, how much the people they are into the red zone or yellow zone or any green zone. So we'll be having 3 zones. If possible, we will try to move the people out. During emergency, how we will evacuate them, all this needs to be considered. Risk analysis, as we all know, risk is consequence and probability. So we need to know about the consequence in case if anything happens, credible emergency scenario happens. And we should minimize the risk to the maximum tolerable criterion. Otherwise, in international standards, we say like as low as reasonably practicable. And then we need to do the consequence analysis also. If there is any disaster happen, or it can be dealt in the equipment level as well as the industry level, or as in community level. So we can do the risk, the consequence analysis in 3 major scales. Emergency preparedness, like types of emergency events which can happen during an emergency. It is basically in petroleum and petrochemical industries. It deals with 2 things. One is heat effect, other one is over pressure effect. So consequence of events like a flammable vapor cloud fire, toxic vapor cloud. This is what happened in methyl isocyanate case in Bhopal. And then storage tank on fire. It happens recently in Jaipur Depot, HPCL. And then pool fire, it normally we are facing in any sort of an trench fire in the refineries or in the petrochemical industries. Torch fire, if there is any release of high pressure gas or any liquid which catches fire, then the fire happens with intense pressure, and it can reach to the places where it can affect the vessels and structures as well. Vapor cloud explosion, rapid combustion of flammable gas outdoors. This is a vapor cloud explosion, as one of the videos we have seen, and which can be classified as a vapor cloud or gas cloud explosion. Physical explosion, like failure of pressure vessels due to internal pressure, especially when the fire happens, when the components which is available inside, that means the fluid which is available inside, if it reaches to the critical pressure, critical temperature plays a major role. Once it reaches to that, then everything converts, all the liquid components converts into gas, and then the physical failure and explosion can happen to the vessel. A confined space explosion, when there is a rapid combustion flammable gas in the enclosure, like when we do confined space entry jobs, where we do paintings inside the storage tanks, if there is any fire, then it can lead to one confined space explosion. Blevy, and it happened in Bonesfield, like a catastrophic failure of a pressure vessel containing superheated liquid. Like we said, like if we have a separator in any hydrocarbon separator, naphtha systems, overhead vessels in the distillation columns, it can have a hot fluid, and reboilers can have a hot fluid. When it catches fire, it can release the vapors and then it ignites. So Blevy, it brings a devastating effect to the system. Some of the examples which I just want to show to you. Iraq pipeline, fire and explosion. It happened on 12th June 2003. The main root cause found out by the authorities was pipeline blast and resulted in fire due to act of sabotage. So they purposely, provided the improvised explosive device to detonate the pipeline so that crude oil and gas pipeline supply can be cut off. And this can happen in anywhere, especially in the border areas, or even where the people are violent and they want to disrupt the supplies. And second is, it's a well-known Bonesfield, UK, December 2011. It's a very simple, even with escalated into one major disaster. When the storage tanks were overflown due to the faulty gauges, so resulted in release of flammable liquids and vapors. And then it caught fire, exploded, and the explosion here 200 kilometers away. 43 injured, 2,000 people evacuated in this. So this is a good example of community get affected. So I treated as a disaster. And HPCL Vizag Blevy, September 1997. LPG leak during the receipt from the pressurized tip resulted in 46 personnel killed, $16 million loss in India. And IOC depot to 29 October 2009. And a pipeline leak inside the depot. The engineers and technicians, they tried to arrest the leak, but unfortunately it got fire, and then 12 people get killed, 300 injured. You see the number. 500,000 people, 5 lakh people evacuated, 7 days blaze was on. And even the nearby hotels were evacuated very smartly by the hotel authorities. So we're supposed to have an emergency plan so that the people will act at right time with the right note. So let us move to the next topic, hazard analysis methods. We have 5 credible hazard analysis method. One is hazard and operability studies. It's much more relevant to the process industries, especially petroleum and petrochemicals. And it gives what is the deviation from the normal operating point and how it can be controlled or how it can be prevented from escalating into one major accident. And then accident consequence analysis, event tree analysis, fault tree analysis, for failure mode effects and criticality analysis. So these are all the other methods which can be used in petrochemical as well as even in other industries, where we can do the hazard analysis to find out the hazard and how the frequency and hazard can result into a risk, and whether this risk is within the acceptable level. Otherwise, how we can bring it into the acceptable limit as practically as possible. So if we don't have a proper emergency preparedness and disaster management plan, this is what is going to happen. Now, The left side, you can see the number of dead bodies after the Bhopal incident. It is very unfortunate to see, and we don't want to repeat. And the right side, the Dow Chemicals, still they couldn't do anything within India. Still, they are facing resistance. Still, they couldn't continue the business. They sold it to the other companies. So the Dow Chemical is, they face a lot of issues because of this incident. Their business continuity was at stake, even around the world. So Dow Chemical, no justice in Bhopal, no business in India. Let us go to the plan, how we deal with the plan. Before we deal with the plan, you just see the figure right side. When you have hazard process, you engineering, good engineering design, and then we put good engineering controls, then critical alarms and operators response. You should have the trained operators as well as the critical alarm should alert the operators. And then we go to the automatic shutdown system, physical protections like relief valves, plant emergency response. This is where we need to develop a plan, community emergency response. So it is a multi-layer system, but since the emergency and disaster management plan, it comes as a last line of defense. If it goes or if it fails, then the consequence will be very high. So we need to have a very robust plan. So what will be our basis of plan? Less consequence with more frequency, we cannot neglect. So we need to consider that also, plus high consequence with the low frequency. So both has to be considered during the plan. Accident prevention procedure and measures. We have a HSE policy, layout and interface distance. We should have a good layout and interface distance. If you see the other video where the pipeline got a fire and it propagated to the storage facilities also. So based on the amount of risk, based on the quantity of risk we have, we should have a proper interface facility distance. And safety committee, safety audit, inspection, work PTW systems, yearly warnings, alarms, inbuilt safety system and interlock system. Inbuilt safety systems are like PSVs. We have the PSV isolation walls are having interlock systems. These are all some of the examples. And then we need to have emergency preparedness procedure measures, fire drills, how we will respond. So we can practically demonstrate and we can see fire drills and mock exercise, mutual aids to support each other and the industrial clusters, training and awareness programs. So this really improves our knowledge and skill. And we'll go to the response procedure and measures, procedures and coordination among task group, zoning and maps, layout flow diagrams, manpower, organogram, the responsibilities. Like we should have a proper, main incident commander, administrative control centers, safety coordinators, and resources. We should have a proper resource like, we may be having a mutual aid infrastructure like emergency control room, separate control room. If it is not possible, like plant control room can be used. So, this should be available in our plan. Plus, we'll be going to the emergency preparedness plan plus recovery procedure. Like once the event happens and it has been contained to the acceptable level, then how we will go back to the normal operation, like post-recovery procedure. Post-emergency recovery, incident investigation, damage assessment, cleanup and restoration. If someone wants to see like this is an, it's a normal activity, you can imagine like what has happened in BP, Gulf of Mexico drilling rig event, which has happened in 2010, and you can see the amount of money they spent by BP to clean up and restoration. $20 billion US fine by the court in US, $28 billion US for cleanup and compensation to the fishermen and other communities who get affected because of this. And you see the environment damage, like 4.9 million barrels of oil spill into the sea. And you can see they are not prepared for it because they were drilling, deepest well in the Gulf of Mexico, 36,000 feet. So this is the first time they were doing this drilling plan. They did not have a proper emergency preparedness. That is why they took 87 days to cap the well, which has got uncontrolled release. Really, it is really very huge. 87 days, the well was continuously flowing into the sea. And it took years to clean up the water bodies to the level acceptable. Still, the post damage is falling on with the fishing resource shortages to the communities. So like investigation, immediate action, what we do, we should have an investigation plan also. Plan the investigation, data collection, data analysis, corrective action and reporting. And this is this has to be done because from where we learn the lessons. Then sketches and layouts. What are all the sketches we should have? Like we should have hazard zone layouts, PNADs, cause and effect firefighting and ESD systems, final elements. Fire and response organ also should be there so that it can be responded in time and the people should know their roles and responsibilities, and it comes with the help of training. Right side, if you see the ESD system and you can press the ESD system, that can shut off like quick shut off valves or any shut off a trip systems. If you see the emergency escalations, like normally in the process industry, you have an alarm which is being controlled by operator or automatic control system, so which is in green zone. When it escalated to the trip systems, then we are reaching into the higher elevated risk zone where we say like shutdown systems are responding. It is a preventive system provided for us to, the system to respond so that we don't face loss of containment or any fire or explosion. And then it goes to the safety layer where you have an emergency shutdown. First one is process shutdown, then it goes to the emergency shutdown. If that fails, then it goes to the PSVs, and that is an active protection layer. This is a mitigating an event. Then if that fails, then we go to the passive protection system, like, we have a dike valves for tanks and vessels. And if that fails, and you will be losing control on it. Emergency responder layer there. You need to bring in some makeshift systems to control it. Like in Piper Alpha, all this process fails, process shutdown fail, emergency shutdown fail. Even the PSVs, they have been removed, no proper handover, then resulted in loss of containment and catches fire and worst disaster of 168 lives. So we need to have a good plan. Right side, if you see I can give you the pictogram where a typical emergency control system, how it functions. We have the incident, site incident control, chief incident controller. Normally it is in district administration, like collector, inspector of factories. And then we should know about how to notify, format to notify, emergency coordinators, mutual aid agreements, fire brigade, police, hospitals, government officials. So all their contact list, how we communicate, notify to them. Like we can send the faxes, or we can send it through the portal. Now IT portals are available. We can notify. We can use the hotlines, and everything has to be tested as well. And we should have the checklist in the emergency control center as well as in everybody's hand. Those who are responding to the situation, disaster, I can say, we should have the do's and don't list, because nobody can keep everything in their mind during an emergency. It is not possible. So we are coming to the end of a session now. So as per the Factors Act, we supposed to give proper information to the public, those who are involved in get affected due to the incident, any incident if it happens. And the emergency response plan can be classified into two categories. One is on-site, another one is off-site. On-site emergency plan, it deals with an emergency which is happening within the boundary of an industry. And off-site, it goes out of the boundary and it affects the community. Off-site, on-site team, basically asset owner is responsible to have this off-site emergency plan in agreement with the inspector of factories as well as the district administration, in which we deal with the deputy collector or otherwise collector of a district. And as agreed plan, we can have it in the flow chart as well as, we should have it in the written document for approval. And testing and validation of on-site and off-site emergency, how we can test the validation is mock drills, exercise efficiency measurements, refinement, like if there is any gap, the procedure can be modified. And then we can use, we gain experience out of it, confidence level will improve, responsibility of asset owner is it is their responsibility to carry out this validation process. So thank you very much. Hope I didn't get, I did not bore you all. Hope you gained something out of this presentations. Any questions you can ask.